Welcome to Business Networking and Referrals. I'm Faithann Basore, and here we're making the invisible parts of networking visible. Things like conversations, body language, and connection, so you can build real relationships that lead to referrals. Let's get into today's episode. And this week, I am so pleased to welcome to the show Lizette Clouta. Lizette, thank you so much for saying yes to coming on to the podcast.
Oh, you are most welcome, Faith Ann. You know, I love talking with you about networking.
I love talking about it. And in a roundabout way, we met through networking. So,
Yes, we did actually.
yep, I first met Nikki Roush on a BNI Business Builder webinar. And then I got into her sales funnel. And then we came on a call. She has her Sales Maven Society. And we met on a coaching call. And then in February, she had a great member incentive to get to know other members. And so you and I had a one-to-one through Zoom.
Yes.
And I discovered that you're also in BNI, which stands for Business Network International. So tell us a little bit about your chapter and then how you serve your clients.
So I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and the chapter of BNI, which is Business Network International, that I'm a part of, is called Elite Networking. I have been in that chapter now going on a little over 2 years and currently hold the seat of Treasurer Secretary of the chapter. So I love networking. I love learning about networking. I joined BNI mostly when I joined, I knew that I did not know how to network effectively. Always thought I knew how to network. Networking when you work for someone else, which my academic background and my work background always was in healthcare. So I knew how to connect with people in the healthcare arena. But then when I started my business, I didn't know how to network myself and my business. So I joined BNI to learn how to be a better networker and for professional development. And it's been a wonderful learning opportunity. I learn every single week when I'm there. But I'm not very good at my 60-second yet.
Oh, well, and that's what we're going to work through today. Before we start working on that, why don't you tell the listeners about your business?
Thank you so much. I serve people who are needing to make decisions in their dementia caregiving journey. And the reality is that there's so much information available related to dementia and dementia caregiving that people almost are immobilized and overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information that they get stuck in their own head and they're afraid of making the wrong decision. So they end up not making any decision about their caregiving until they end up in the crisis. And so I help the families make their decisions along the way so that they do not end up in the crisis.
I am so glad you're doing this. And we were talking back when we had our one-to-one. My mother, she had dementia. And the day that my dad died, I became my mom's full-time caregiver. I was thrust into the role. And the only thing that my parents did to help me in that role, and I'm very grateful that they did, is they got at least all the power of attorney, the medical, all of that was taken care of. But not much else. And it was a nightmare for months. And I'll tell this story, you'll understand. I'm still going to BNI every week throughout this, trying to run a window cleaning business and being the only person that really could make decisions for my mother.
Mhm.
So it came time I had my speaker, I was going to speak that week at my chapter in the midst of all this, and I forgot my bio. And as a secretary, you're the one that reads the bio. The secretary reads the featured speaker's bio. I started crying because I didn't have the bio. I mean, talk about just complete crisis, complete not being able to hierarch anything in my life.
Hmm.
Everything was a crisis, everything.
Yeah.
And it was awful. And I wished I would have known about people like you during that time. I had no idea there were people. So I'm grateful for the service that you're doing. And I'm sure that the families really appreciate what you're doing for them in these decision making, very important things they have to do.
It is very important. And people think it's the big decisions that get you. And the reality is, it's the sheer volume of decisions. And the decisions that people need to make are frequently because something is repeating.
Mm.
It's like on a it's like a broken record, right? The same thing keeps happening over and over and over again, and the world will tell you, but it's just a behavior or it's a symptom of the problem. And yes, it can be. And there is another aspect of it, which is that when these things start repeating, it's an indication that something has changed already in your system, and your system hasn't caught up yet.
Mm.
And so you're trying to make decisions almost like in quicksand without stability, because the literal ecosystem or the system or the care system is out of whack, and you just haven't taken the steps to fix that problem, and so it just keeps happening over and over again.
So, would you say that you simplify?
Very much so. I simplify, and then you actually mentioned a really important thing. The hierarchy, the decision making, the hierarchy, the day that you forgot your bio wasn't a deal breaker. I mean, it's a bio, right? And your brain wasn't able to prioritize, you use the word prioritize, all of these things in your life so that you could be clear. And so in essence, what I do when I work with people is they'll come to me and they'll tell me something along the lines of, well, my mom keeps calling me 8 times a day. She lives in an assisted living facility and she's calling me 8 times a day. And that's the thing that the person believes or feels as if it's the problem. And then I'll start asking them questions and then figure out it's not that mom's calling you 8 times a day. It's that mom's calling you 8 times a day between the hours of 5 and 7:30 because her caregiver's gone and you're the person that she's going to call. So it's not repetitive calling. It's she needs supervision between 5 and 7:30 at night until she goes to bed. I'll take the situation and I'll say, you describe the problem 8 times a day. She's calling, but that's the symptom of what's really going on. This is the real problem now. How do we fix that?
Mhm.
And then I come up with suggestions and I'll prioritize it for the person. And then they can go fix that particular problem.
That would have been so helpful for me. I would have been like, and I felt like every decision had, it was like a slinky. Like
Yeah,
every single decision I made meant there was going to be so many other ramifications.
100%.
Oh, and it was too much. But
And people are afraid of making the wrong decision because they're carrying somebody else. It's the moral weight of it, right?
yes,
It's the weight of, I don't want to make the wrong decision with my mom's finances or my dad's place of living, or people feel or believe that the decision that they're going to make is something that if they make it, they can't ever back away from it. Like it's a done deal. Like it's the end of the world if you make this decision. And there are very few decisions that are that hard line. But when you're carrying the decision making capacity for someone else, it feels like you're making an irreparable decision for them or with their stuff that you don't want to, harm them. And so sometimes you just don't decide because it's like, I don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah. In fact, I was just came from a decision making webinar, and it was actually a guest on this podcast, Danielle Bailey, and she said, very few decisions we're not writing the 10 Commandments. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yes. And she has a wonderful framework. And it may be something that you actually go through with your clients as well. So now that we know a little bit about what you do, let's go ahead and see if there might be some support I can give you around your 60-second presentation, because you had said that you struggle with that. As a kind of a baseline, I tell clients, this is not, and especially in a BNI chapter, because they're hearing you every week. This is not the time for your commercial. It's not a commercial. These are your detectives that are sitting in the room, and you're the lead detective, and you say, I'm looking for, and then you give a description. So instead of looking for a bad guy with brown hair and 6'2" with a tattoo, we're saying, I want you to be listening for these kinds of people. And here's what they're going to be saying. Here's what they're going to be doing. Or here's how they're going to be feeling. And the reason why they're going to be feeling this way is because of this. So that's the main job of your 60-second presentation, is to paint a picture, is to give your detectives clues as they go about, and they are listening at the birthday party, at the picnic, at the mixer. They're going to be hearing people talk and complain. And in your case, very much so, it's complaining. We want to not only help them recognize when they're standing in the middle of a referral for you, we also want to give them the language to bring you up in a way that's not weird. Because we don't walk into grandma's house as she's stirring her chili, point at her and say, you need better insurance. We don't do that. But we have to be able to bring you up naturally. What would it be like if? And so I recently helped a plumbing company, and they wanted to talk about endless hot water. And so the question that they tell the room to ask is, what would it be like if you had endless hot water? Because that's an easy question to remember. And then you get that person thinking, imagining, oh. So in your case, we want to get a question like, what would it be like if? And then we're going to kind of hone that in. So would that be helpful if you had something like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay,
People
great.
can't see me bebopping my head here, but yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the first thing we want to do when we're doing a 60-second presentation is we want to clearly say our name and the name of our business without any caveats. Don't stand up and say, oh, I'm sorry I was late. I'm Faith Ann with the Networkers Tour Guide. Or, I know most of you know me, but Nope. You just say your name and the name of your business, and you say it clearly so that people can understand it. So that would be the very first thing I would say to you, is you would stand up and say your name and name of your business. So you want to try that real quick?
I will practice it. Yes. My name is Lizette Clouta from Think Different Dementia.
There you go. So no caveats before, nothing after that's irrelevant, just the name and name of your business. Then what I like to do is tell clients to come up with a short testimonial. And what a testimonial does is it paints a picture of real practical ways that you help your client. And we want to be very result driven when we're doing this. We don't want to get down into the weeds and say how we helped. We want to say what the client got, what's different. And my favorite word to use when we start our testimonial is recently, because we want the room to understand how relevant we are. So when you say recently, or when you say yesterday or last week, you're saying to the room, I'm currently in the practice of bringing results to my clients. Here's an example. All of that is in that one little word, recently. So, if you were going to think back on your recent clients, do you have something where a client was able to make a better decision, where they were less overwhelmed, where you could help them prioritize properly and their nervous system is doing its proper job?
Well, when I do my BNI 60-second tomorrow, it will be yesterday,
Okay.
because it's happening today. Recently, one of my long-standing clients needed to move her husband into a memory care facility. And we were able to make the decision together over the last 4 months as he has been changing, so that it is a easy transition for both her and him when he moves to his new home.
That's perfect. So that's a great testimonial. It's not too long. It tells about the transition being easy, and it just paints a picture. As you're talking, I'm thinking, "Oh, that's cool." So then the next part of a 60-second presentation that I like to use is what's called the referral ask. It's probably the most important thing in the whole 60 seconds is the referral ask. And you like to try and tie the referral ask directly to the testimonial. So we
Mhm.
a lot of us, have different facets of our business that we help. So for instance, if I'm talking about a testimonial about my premium OKC networking community and a result he or she received, then my referral ask would be somebody who wants to join an online community to help them network better. But if I was going to do a pitch testimonial, after that testimonial, I would say, I'm looking for the person who is nervous when they have to introduce themselves. So you tie the testimonial to who you're looking for. So when we say this week, I'm looking for, and so now we have to think about it can't be anyone. So are you looking for maybe a stressed out caregiver, or who comes to mind when you're going to ask for a specific person?
So, specifically related to this testimonial, this is me just talking, right?
Hmm.
Referral ask for me would be a couple that has recently gotten a diagnosis of dementia in their family.
Okay. Now, this is my question. When you
Mhm.
say a couple who has recently gotten a diagnosis of dementia in their family, are you talking about it's one of them, or
Mhm.
okay? So I wouldn't say in their family. I would
Okay.
say a couple who either the husband or the wife has recently gotten a diagnosis of dementia or dementia diagnosis, however you would prefer to say that. So we're not going outside of this couple. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's great. A couple who either the husband or you could say one or the other. If you didn't want to tie to a marriage, because it could be a different kind of couple that's
Mhm.
they're life partners, but they're not necessarily married. But either however you want to do that, but a couple where one of them has just received a dementia diagnosis.
Okay.
Okay, now here's probably the most challenging part for most people. What are they saying? What are they doing? How are they feeling when the wife's husband has just received a dementia diagnosis? What do you hear your clients say when this happens?
Oh, that's so hard because there's so many things come to mind. Um, they may be saying things like, I don't know what to do, or I don't know what this is going to look like in the future. I'm afraid
Hmm.
of what's coming. Um, I don't know how I'm going to handle all of this.
I think we go with I don't know what to do, or I'm afraid of what's coming. That's very relatable.
Okay.
So we've gotten your name of your business, your testimonial, and your referral ask. So now we have painted the picture of who you're looking for. You're looking for that couple where one of them has a recent dementia diagnosis and they're saying things like, I don't know what to do, or I'm afraid of what's coming. And it just depends on the time. You may have time to add one more thing in there. You could even say, and they're afraid, saying things like, I don't know what to do. And if you wanted to use a stronger word than afraid, so you could say, um, I'm looking for that couple who one of them has just received a recent dementia diagnosis. They're afraid and they're saying things like, and now you can use a different word for afraid that's even stronger if you wanted to.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know what to do, or I'm afraid of what's coming. So then now we are going to tell the people in the room what to do
Mhm.
this comes up. So then I like to use when you hear that husband or wife. Let's think about this for a second. When you hear the fear in the husband or the wife, what do you think about that?
When you hear the fear of that husband or wife,
Or you could say when you hear the fear in their voice,
ooh, okay. When you hear the fear in their voice,
ask them.
now this is the question, right?
This is the
Ha ha.
question that the room needs to ask
Mhm.
the referral. Now, this is the other hard part. Sometimes this is a little challenging, but just really put yourself in the place of your BNI chapter members. So, not you, your chapter members, because that's another thing that happens with us when we give our presentations. We want our people to talk as if we're ourselves, but you have to remember that they aren't the expert, so we have to give them something easy and natural, a natural way to bring you up. And so I like for you, imagine what it would be like if you had someone to help you make useful decisions. Or maybe you could say, when you hear that fear in their voice, ask them to imagine. I just forgot what I was going to say.
What it would feel like
What it would feel like they
they
didn't
weren't afraid.
if they weren't afraid. Yes. And then we want to tie in this useful decision or something about your hierarchy language or something like that.
They weren't afraid because they knew what the next decision needs to be.
Ask them, what would it feel like if they weren't afraid and they could know what the next step is? Because that's a little simpler for them to remember.
Mhm.
And then we can say, if they seem relieved at that idea, or if you wanted, you could tell them, notice their face. And if you see some relief in their face, ask them if they'd be open to an introduction to me.
Ask them.
If they'd be open.
Okay.
And then with permission, and then you decide how you want this connection to happen. And make it, something you're going to check. So if it's an email or is it a
Oh,
group
no, it's
text?
gotta be text.
Okay. So if they seem open and with permission, because I always like to say with permission, because you don't want your people to put you in a group text without permission from the person themselves.
With permission, send us a group text.
Put us in a group text.
I like the group text. The group text is so much better.
And it's also beneficial if the person, your chapter members have already gotten the buy-in from the referral themselves. That's so much easier than just
Mhm.
someone saying, "Oh, well, you should talk to Mary." Well, can you facilitate that a little bit for me so I don't just cold call Mary, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry, anybody who's a BNI member listening to this, but it's useless telling me to text somebody if there's not a warm introduction. It doesn't go anywhere.
Exactly. That's what their job is. That's their main purpose is to bring you the referral. They make all the difference.
Mhm.
They are the glue because they have influence over the people. You don't, but they do. So that's the proper way to do it. Yeah.
I love this. I love this.
Well, good.
And then finish strong.
Finish strong by repeating your name and the name of your business. And let me tell you why you do this, because you're going to pick people up along the way. So, people who weren't listening to you at the beginning, when you start describing how these people are feeling and the situation, if they have people in their life, they're going to start listening in a way they weren't. And they're going to want to know your name. And they're going to be embarrassed if they didn't catch it at the beginning. So you repeating it is a grace you're giving to them so that they don't have to come up to you and say, "I'm sorry, I forgot your name." So that's why
Mhm.
you repeat it at the beginning and at the end.
Mm. I love this. This is very different than the way a lot of people teach you to do your 60 seconds. I think you've been in BNI a long time, haven't you?
I have. Hmm.
I think it's changed a lot, and I also think it depends on who your chapter people are and who your education people are and what their views and philosophies and how they teach you. Um, but I really, really like this. So, oh,
Yeah,
I like this format.
try it out.
Mm,
And you wrote down the outline. So now
I did.
what you can do now is, as you are helping different clients, you can swap out the testimonial and the referral ask, but the question really doesn't need to change much, and everything
Mhm,
else doesn't need to change much. So you could have a completely different pitch just by changing out the testimonial and the referral ask. Because now maybe you want to look for a daughter whose parent has just been diagnosed, or you want to look for what other kinds of people, and maybe you do help maybe you help more than just the caregivers, but you can always go back to this structure and know that you're being clear. That's
mhm,
the confidence that you're going to get is you're being clear. People aren't going to be wondering how to send you a referral because you're telling them.
mhm.
And then one more quick advice if you're open to it.
Of course.
Okay. So what I like to do is I'll use one pitch 3 times in a row
Mm,
because people need to hear it again and again and again. And more than 3, you do kind of sound people might start to think she needs to talk about something else. But less than 3, you're in it. So but we need to hear it
mhm,
again and again. And I did this for when I was representing Window Cleaning Plus. I did it for Mother's Day. So I did it 3 weeks before Mother's Day. I said, "This week, I'm looking for that friend who has a hard time buying their mother something for Mother's Day." They'll be saying things like, "I don't want to buy my mom flowers. They're just going to die in a week." Or, "I really want to get my mom something special, but I don't know what to get her." And then the rest of it, when you hear that. So, week 1, I didn't get any referrals. Week 2, no referrals. Week 3, one of my chapter members comes up to me and says, "Hey, I need to buy my mother in law a gift certificate for window cleaning for Mother's Day." So I love that 3 because I just think it's a perfect amount of times.
Well, I agree, and it's really interesting that you say that because the tendency is that we get bored, and so then we don't repeat it because we
Hmm.
tell ourselves everybody's heard it, right? And I know from working with students, repetition is key, but I haven't quite taken it on in BNI, so I'm going to try this for the next like 12 weeks, doing 3 batches of 3
Hmm.
and actually scripting it out a little bit better
Hmm.
than my fly by the seat of my pants likes to do.
Hmm.
Because I really think that if I start to do that, the referrals will follow.
Hmm. You'll be more clear, and you'll be. Have you heard of the reticular activating system?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, get that RAS working for you. because
Yes.
the people in the room, their RASs are going to start working for you when they can hear it clearly.
Just for people in the audience who
Yeah.
don't know what an RAS is, it's the phenomenon when you buy an Equinox and all of a sudden you see all of the Equinox cars on the road. That's your reticular activating system playing out in real life. So I thought I would throw that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And from a networking standpoint, what that means for the networker is that as we hear things and we associate them with people in our lives that are important to us, we will start to notice what's important to them. So, people in my chapter never looked at windows before I started talking about window cleaning. But it's the way the brain filters and says, oh, because I like Lizette, now I may have not even heard the opportunity before. But now that she has told me to listen for a couple that's just been diagnosed with dementia, their brains are actually going to help them in this way, help you in this way of alerting them. Oh, oh, wait, I might be standing in the middle of a referral for Lizette. That's what's wonderful about networking too, is your own brain helps you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm definitely going to try this, and I actually signed up for the speed networking for the first time.
Okay.
I'm going to start to practice. I have to get better at doing these.
And you will, and when you memorize it, now you're free to notice the room, and that's so important. And here's the last tip I'll give you. With visitors, then, once you become very familiar with this structure and doing it, then a visitor can come and you can curtail your pitch to that visitor if they are a good prospect for you. So let's say you were planning to talk about a couple, but a visitor comes in and it's the daughter. Her
Mhm.
parents are, or she's at least concerned about maybe her mom might be. Now you can switch your whole 60-second and you speak to her.
Yeah, for sure.
But all of that happens when you practice it and when you know the structure. If you're just composing on the fly, it's just not ideal. And BNI, it's an investment, so we should want every minute that we're in that room to be optimal for us. And this is a great way to do it, is to plan out what you're going to say.
I'm really glad that you reframed it that way because it is an investment. And yet, sometimes it's easy because you go every single week to think that you can just not prepare. And I'm realizing and recognizing in order for me to be a better networker, I will need to prepare.
Hmm. Yeah. It just really frees you up. You can be more expressive. Everything improves when you're prepared. Lizette, thank you again for coming on here. And my question that I'm asking the guests now is, if you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give young Lizette as she was going out into the world to make a difference?
Start your business earlier.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Take the risk earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Start your business earlier. It's harder at the beginning and it'll be better in the long run.
I agree. And I'm so glad that you are out there for caregivers when they need to make these important decisions for the people that matter in their lives. I'm so thankful that you're there supporting them. And listeners, if you're in a BNI chapter and you're struggling to create a 60-second presentation each week and you're just doing it on the fly and you'd like help, I'd love to be a resource for you in that way. And I'll put a link in the show notes to book a strategy session so we can craft a pitch that's going to drive curiosity and make it easy for others to bring you referrals. Thank you again, Lizette.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Business Networking and Referrals podcast. If a friend or business connection came to mind while you were listening, someone you genuinely want to see thrive, send this episode their way. And if you want better one-to-one conversations, grab 10 questions to ask in a one-to-one at thenetworkerstourguide.net/resources. Now go network. I'm rooting for you.